Like the video and subscribe to our channel right now and get 1 week of amazing luck. Building a bodybuilder physique demands a lot of hard work and dedication, but it pays off in the end. Even with all of their blood, sweat, tears, and years of hard effort, most bodybuilders eventually run into problems. Whether due to aging, injury, drug usage, or a significant change in lifestyle. What happens when you stop training and your superhuman muscles fade? What if your love of bodybuilding leads to several surgeries? What if you enlarge your biceps to the point that they absolutely explode? Let's find out by looking at some famous bodybuilders then and now. Number 12. Tom Platz. Tom Platz, also known as the Golden Eagle. Tom was known for having the biggest quads on the planet. He was the first bodybuilder to take leg day to a whole new level. Between 1979 and 1986, Tom Platz competed in 7 Mr. Olympia competitions. His best placing was 3rd in 1981. Tom remains a huge proponent of the sport. At the age of 67, he looks a little old, but he is still one of the top guest speakers in the bodybuilding world. I just want to give back to the sport I love, which has been really great to me. Number 11. Larry D. Scott. Winner of both the very first and second Mr. Olympia titles, Larry D. Scott was appropriately nicknamed both the Legend and the Golden Boy. These nicknames were, obviously, due to his impressive physique and dashing good looks. Larry D. Scott retired at the staggering old age of 28 after his second Mr. Olympia win, but he did attempt a brief comeback in 1979 before actually retiring for good. The legend was naturally gifted with a narrow physique, but he had to work extremely hard to build up his shoulders and back to create the iconic image of width and V-taper, so highly sought after in the bodybuilding world. Larry D. Scott got his start after training with a well-known bodybuilder, Vince Gironda. Training under Gironda left him well known for his unusually large and long biceps. Scott maintained his physique until his last breath, which was unfortunately due to Alzheimer-related complications on March 8, 2014. Number 10. Edouard "Spike" Guerre. Edouard "Spike" Guerre was a force to be reckoned with in the bodybuilding world. With his tall physique and masculine features, he rose to prominence as an international model on runways for brands such as Diesel and Calvin Klein. Nevertheless, after 15 years of steroid use, calamity struck and Edouard's heart practically exploded in the most dramatic way possible. His heart literally couldn't take it anymore after years of steroid misuse and drinking too many energy drinks. He suffered from an aortic dissection, which caused his heart to practically tear itself apart, giving him only minutes to live. Fortunately, he received medical assistance in time, saving his life and allowing him to relay his extraordinary story as a dire warning. Edouard then stopped bodybuilding and lost almost all of the muscle bulk he had accumulated over the years. He almost certainly extended years to his life by doing so, but he died in 2016 as a result of a brain seizure. Number 9. Greg Valentino. For one simple reason, Greg Valentino was the most hated man in bodybuilding. He was proud of his huge, unnatural-looking 27-inch arms. His biceps were an embarrassment to the sport, and they remained that way until he went too far. During his peak, he'd been taking synthol, which is an oil that's injected directly into the muscular tissue to make it look bigger. Greg drank a mixture of equipoise test proportionate and synthol once a week. The end result is unnaturally large 27-inch biceps. Unfortunately, his story did not finish there. In 2011, he was admitted to the hospital after reusing a needle and puncturing an abscess, causing it to burst with pus. Greg's bicep was entirely ruined as a result of this horrible experience. He's unrecognizable today. Do you think Greg deserved what happened to him, or do you feel sorry for him? Please let us know in the comments section below. Number 8. Tom Prince. Tom Prince went from a 312-pound off-season weight to a 230-pound competition physique, but he was caught off guard when his body betrayed him. Tom Prince's bodybuilding career was thriving in the early 2000s, and he even made it to the Mr. Olympia stage, but as he prepared for the 2003 Night of Champions, his kidneys failed. The purpose is to attempt to shed 82 pounds in order to reach his competitor's weight. Certainly, it gave him the physique of a champion bodybuilder, but it was also too much for his body to handle. He lived a peaceful life with his wife in the property management business after ending his bodybuilding career, and his gains are nowhere to be found. Not as wonderful as performing on stage at Mr. Olympia. He died on February 5, 2022, at the age of 53, from complications of cancer. Number 7. Andreas Munzer. Andreas was well known for his ripped body and paper-thin skin. He was 200 pounds, but the 20 pounds of superb muscle on his frame gave him that translucent appearance. His commitment was remarkable, but his physique came at risk. Andreas was hospitalized in 1996 due to severe stomach pain. Doctors performed surgery to try to stop the bleeding in his stomach, but it was too late. The official post-mortem report claimed that Andreas' livers and kidneys had failed closer scrutiny and found that he had tumors the size of a table tennis ball in his liver, as well as an atypical heart weighing 636 grams. Significantly more than the standard 300 grams. Andreas Munzer's life was cut short by the discovery of 20 different medicines in his system. It was a terrible and tragic end for Andreas Munzer, and another reminder of how far certain bodybuilders would go to reach perfection. Number 6. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger is arguably the most famous bodybuilder of all time. He literally has a tournament named after him. Yet Arnie's physique has altered dramatically over the course of his different career choices, and now that he's vegan, he's unrecognizable. Arnold Schwarzenegger's choice to go from a high-protein carnivorous diet to a strictly vegan one has certainly created waves in the bodybuilding world. Arnie chose to try veganism after years of following his typical bodybuilding diet and recently said that it was one of the best decisions he has ever made. He not only feels younger and better, but his LDL cholesterol values have reduced dramatically since being vegan. Of course, he appears to be much smaller than before, but given that he is 75 years old, it's reasonable to give him some space. Number 5. Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman, an 8-time Mr. Olympia champion, dedicated his life to developing one of the most amazing physiques the world has ever seen. What he didn't realize was that it would cost him up to $2 million and his ability to walk years later. Coleman needed 2 hip replacements, 11 back surgeries, and spent some time in a wheelchair after a long and happy career consuming obscene amounts of protein and lifting thousands of pounds. He needed 14 screws, 2 rods, and 2 cages implanted into him at one time just to stand up. If you thought his worries were ended, you'd be mistaken. Just after surgery, he turned over and his screws began to break in. Not once, not twice, but 4 times. Coleman addressed this in an Instagram post, admitting to one regret. Coleman was photographed squatting a monster 800 pounds like it was nothing. He completed 2 difficult squats but wishes he had completed 4. Furthermore, he hasn't stopped going off and lifted the wheelchair bound, and he has no plans to stop doing arm workouts. He's still active in the bodybuilding world at the age of 58. He has a profitable supplement company and a podcast where he shares all of his knowledge. Coleman still claims that his only regret is underperforming. Number 4. Jean-Pierre Fuchs. In the late 1990s, Jean-Pierre Fuchs was a bodybuilding superstar. He had it all: size, strength, and charisma. But his career was cut short when a strange injury forced him to retire. Jean-Pierre decided to do some big squats with an incredible 675 pounds on his back during a photo session for Flax magazine in 2002. Unfortunately, the spotter was not present, and when Jean-Pierre attempted to rise up with all that weight, he realized he wasn't going anywhere. Once the free weight fell, it utterly wrecked his knees and quadriceps. Brooks was now unable to continue training, and he gradually lost most of his gains, leaving him looking significantly different from what he had done previously. Brooks was now unable to work out, and he gradually lost much of his gains, leaving him looking significantly different from what he did at his peak. Number 3. Paul Dillett. Paul Dillett, often known as Frankenstein, was a bodybuilding legend who seemed untouchable in winning competition after competition until the 1994 Arnold Classic, when he encountered a battle that nearly took his life. Paul unexpectedly froze during the tournament owing to severe muscle cramps caused by dehydration and required immediate medical treatment. Because he was so weak and dehydrated, the physician struggled to insert 4 needles into his vein. To everyone's surprise, they discovered Paul wasn't breathing, and he legally died for a minute. As Paul regained consciousness, he was astounded to discover that a magnesium and calcium imbalance in his blood had caused him to faint. This encounter had a lasting impression on Paul and affected him forever. He had a good bodybuilding career till 2012, but his physique has changed dramatically since then. His characteristic muscular appearance has given way to a basic body with a somewhat large belly. Number 2. Romario dos Santos Alves. Romario dos Santos Alves was a bodybuilder who wanted to be a superhero and have massive muscles, but his 25-inch biceps were nearly severed. Guys at his gym were making tremendous gains with a new substance, and Romario wanted to know everything about it. He became a well-known synthol addict, and his biceps eventually turned into real rocks made almost completely of the substance. Despite his wife's protests, he continued to consume the hazardous medication, nearly losing both arms. Number 1. Chris Cormier. Chris Cormier was a force to be reckoned with in the bodybuilding world. From humble beginnings as a 120-pound teenager to 11 titles won, his success came crashing down one tragic day when a career-ending injury rendered him unable to walk, let alone compete. Chris Cormier's back had already been damaged by years of tough exercises, and the strain of lifting big weights had resulted in shattered vertebrae. This terrible accident not only destroyed his professional career but also left him with long-term bodily consequences that need significant rehabilitation. Today, Chris Cormier isn't quite the same as he once was. He no longer has the huge body that made him a champion, but he still appears fit and healthy. His age has taken its toll on his body, and despite the fact that he no longer participates professionally, he maintains an active lifestyle. Alright, let us pull up some more videos you do not want to miss out on. Consider subscribing, and we'll see you with the next one.